Right, guys. Ooh, for those of you that have been very, very patient and waiting for me, I've just spent the last 10 minutes, of course, talking to myself. I'm sorry if some of you have joined and you've just been saying, "Where is this woman?" And I think that I thought I was live. This is the problem with technical stuff, isn't it? So hopefully I am live now. So, hi everyone. My name is Joy Langley, and I'm an emotional intelligence coach, and I'm also a therapist. And today's session is all about emotions. And for me, the three big emotions that affect entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs, if you're running a business, you cannot get away from your emotions. And I do hope that I am now live. I think I can see that there are two people at least watching, which is great. I'm sorry if you joined earlier on and I hadn't hit the button. Hopefully, people may return. Let's just see how it goes. And yes, we can all have a laugh at this. I love the fact that we have to be resilient. So here I am, guys, being a resilient business owner. Yes, responding to the challenges that come up. And I've had a lot of feelings now that have come up in me between being embarrassed, between thinking it's funny, between thinking, oh my God, do I have to like start this all over again? Because I've been talking to myself for the last 10 minutes, guys. Can you believe it? But it's great to see you all, and thanks for pulling up with my let's say my incompetency, lack of competence sometimes when it comes to these live things. So yes, uh, some of you have to go very, very quickly. I hear that. So I'm going to be talking for at least 20 minutes, giving all my stuff and more. And then if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I will look at that. But what are the three big emotions that entrepreneurs face on a daily basis? Um, I think it's a bit like being in swimming in water, swimming in the ocean. Sometimes the tide is working for you and the currents are working for you and you're having a great time. But sometimes there's an undercurrent and it can suck you in. So, and I'm being told that it's great to make mistakes, Joy. We all make mistakes. Absolutely. There are lots of sayings, lots of memes, lots of affirmations that you can use. So it's not really what happens because you fall down. It's basically how you get up. That is the thing that you've got to work on. And as business owners, we are doing that all the time, thinking on our feet and just recovering. So I am recovered from my initial failings of hitting the button at the beginning of this show. But life happens. So yes, being a business owner is a bit like swimming in the nice blue ocean, lovely, lovely waves. They're supporting you and you're having a great time. And then suddenly the tide changes and there's an undercurrent, which begins to, let's say, pull you down. Now, emotions can be like that because there's the bit above the waterline, I call it, like an iceberg. And there's the bit that's below the waterline that we can't see. And the bit above the waterline are the first emotions that we have when things go right or when they go wrong. I like to focus on the negative emotions in a way because the negative emotions are the ones that have an awful lot of power. And the big three that I want to talk to you today about are sadness. I want to talk to you about fear. And I also want to talk to you about anger. So, what happens with all of these feelings in business? You can't get away from it. I personally could be feeling quite sad now because I didn't quite start my live properly, but I'm not going to be sad because I've built up a lot of resilience. So, business owners business owners have to become resilient, but recognizing what emotions happening to you, what you're going to do with it. And then when you meet other people, how you're going to manage your emotions along with their own different emotions and have a really collaborative and productive meeting or a collaborative and productive networking session. That's where you're at. At the end of the day, as business owners, we are trying to attract clients. And not only are we trying to attract clients, we're trying to retain them. So there, the onus is on us to work out what's happening for us. The reason I say that the onus is on us, because we are in control to a certain point of the emotions that we're having. Okay. There are a lot of things that are happening consciously that we're aware of, and there are an awful lot of things that are happening that are below the line. So I'm being asked if there's a list of emotions and will I be giving that out? I can pull that together, not a problem. I did something last week which was about emotions and the list, but I can certainly make sure I get that out to you again this week. So the three that I wanted to pick on today, which I think are big things that happen for business owners and can stop us from being, let's say, consistently successful. They can basically derail us if we're in a leadership position. They can also stop us from being fluffing my lines there, but stopping us from being top performers. Business performance is the word, isn't it? How well do you do? Because how well you do in business at the end of the day will determine your income. So we can't pretend that it's not about generating a good income. But in between, what things are holding us back? So let's look at the first one, which is going to be sadness. And before I get on to that, just want to make sure that you know that I do one-to-one like audits for you on emotional intelligence. And if anything resonates today that I'm talking about, please feel free to go to the featured section on my profile, hit that link, and we'll have a quick get together and find out what emotions are perhaps are a drawback, a detrimental for you in business. Right, so let's look at sadness. Now, sadness is an interesting feeling in business. It can happen because things aren't going the way that you want them to, and it can lead to another cascade of feelings. So we could say we have hundreds of feelings. There are about 7 core feelings that we look at, and it's determined by a very, very good research wheel by Plutchik, guy called, I think it's Richard Plutchik, Plutchik, and he has an emotions wheel which has got so many emotions on there. You couldn't imagine that you could have that many, because we look at very, very simple things like happiness, sadness, anger. We look at surprise, we look at disgust. These are kind of the basic emotions that human beings are having. And then once we have that, we can have another emotion off the back of that. And then it gets more and more complicated, like painting and mixing colors, different nuances and different descriptions. So we have to be aware when some of these emotions are in place. Let's look at sadness, because I'm going so off task here, and make sure that I'm saying what I need to say to you guys. So with sadness, when it happens in business, you do owe it to yourself to stop and work out what exactly is happening for you. Because emotions can stop you in your track, as I said. They can stop you from being productive. They can stop you from wanting to do your best work. But sadness happens. And sadness, excuse me, guys, I don't know what's got into my throat there. Apologize for coughing. I probably should have a little bit drink of water. Just make sure that doesn't happen again. 1 second, guys. Right, as I was saying, so sadness is something that happens. When it happens in business, what do you do? Does it derail you? Does it stop you from carrying on or not? I need you to look at what is the cause of it. With each emotion, I want you to look at what actually is going on underneath it. Because there is something going on underneath it. Like the iceberg, that 1/10 that is above the water would be the feeling that you have in that immediate moment. And the other 9/10 underneath the iceberg contains such a variety of other emotions. Now, sadness could be fueled by just pure grief. You could be grieving for something. It could be a business loss. It could be a personal loss in your private life. Sadness could be happening because you've, let's say, tried to do something and it didn't go well. Disappointment. Now, Disappointment is a big word, one that I know happens for me a lot. But like I said, even doing a live this morning and it having technical problems, my disappointment, I've kind of put it behind me and I'm moving forward. And the reason why I can do that is because I do use my emotional intelligence, which has been in the making for quite a few years. Now, as I said, emotional intelligence coaching, also being a therapist, those two combine really, really well to help you to understand what's going on for you. So I'm doing that to myself all the time in the background and picking myself up. So if sadness is playing out in your life, playing out when you're running your business or doing things, perhaps you should stop and work out what's really creating it. So the thing that's happening on the surface is the primary emotion, the first thing that happens. But then there's lots of stuff that happens underneath the iceberg, which you may need to work out what else is happening for me, because that's where the solution lies in terms of solving it. Now, the second emotion, which I think is also a big one, the biggest one in the room, I think the elephant in the room, is fear. Now, fear comes in many guises and it can stop you in your tracks again. It can also be a motivating thing. Fear is your survival response. So you can't really get away from that kicking in. And with the survival response, you're going to have the feelings of stress. And like I explained to you, stress is a physical thing. It happens internally, happens in our gut, the emotion initially, and then it rises up our polyvagal nerve and hits the brain stem, and then it's interpreted in our brain into a feeling. So fear can be triggered because we've been disturbed by something. We've noticed something. We're very, very good at spotting sudden movements. We're very, very good at spotting sudden noises. If I were to drop one of my gigantic books on the floor right this minute, you would jump, and I'd expect you to. So that trigger is always there. With the stress response, you're always having to work out what is really going on. I need you to look around sometimes when things are happening and begin to analyze what is happening for me. Am I really in danger or am I not in danger? And the truth is that you won't necessarily be in danger unless you're surrounded by wild animals, or if there's a fire, or if there's a flood. A flood, and then it's definitely going to happen. So I'm just making sure that checking some of these comments here. Great. So people are still with me on that one. So yes, so fear is going to kick in. Remember, your survival response is there. It's the first thing that's going to happen for you. You have to work out whether it's fire, flood, wild animal, am I in danger, and take it from there. Okay. Now, in business, I suppose the things that happen to us can feel like we're being chased by a wild animal. It can feel as though we're in danger. And we have to remember to use some of the good coping mechanisms that we have, and also some of the information that we know about the body, the connection between our brain and our body, because that information is always there. It's always happening. And use your body to tell you what's happening, but also use your brain to sometimes override it and give you the reality of your situation. So emotional intelligence is about being able to do that. Like I said, the awareness of your emotion, what's happening for me, labeling it, understanding where your motivation might be coming from when you're working with other people, where's the empathy that you can pull in, and then when you're around other people, having better social interactions and relationships. So I do hope that's making sense, everyone. Right, so that was a quick tour around fear. And like I said, I know that it sounds easy on the surface. It's a little bit harder because we have the conscious awareness and we have our subconscious. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on in the background that we're not aware of. And I mentioned the idea of perhaps swimming in water and being in a current. And if it's working for you, it's great. It's keeping you afloat and you're happy and you're moving forward. But if you catch a terrible undercurrent that begins to pull you down, which is what emotions can do, they can take you to different places. You do need to know what to do next. So understanding what to do next is where I do come into the whole picture. And this emotional intelligence and also my therapeutic background are places that were skills that I use to help you to recover and to help you to get back on your feet. It's all about, as I said, having that good business performance. So I do hope that's making sense, guys. And I'm just going to double check, make sure that I'm on cue for what I'm saying here. Yep, great. Okay. Now, I want you to know that you are born with emotional intelligence. You're also born and you develop that. We also have this thing in our brain which helps us to become who we are called intelligent quotient. The actual intelligence test that you do to work out how smart you are, that's something which is part of our personality too. And I mentioned the word personality. So these three things make us us. Our personality, you know, our intelligent quotient, and also our emotional quotient, which is also called emotional intelligence. So these three things, we have them. We're kind of just born with them. Two of them don't change very much once we get into our 20s, adulthood. One of them can change and can be developed. And I hope you're working out that the one that I'm going to talk about that can be developed is your emotional intelligence. It's the thing that a lot of employers want today. It's a lot of things that business owners are looking out for in the people that they attract and that they work with. And it's a lot of things that leaders have to have too. Because becoming more emotionally intelligent is something that you can do. It's not something that has to stop just because you've left your childhood and your teens and you've moved into adulthood. It's something that human beings do. We do actually just stop. We stop being curious about who we are. We stop challenging some of our thinking. We get into very entrenched thinking patterns. And that's why the emotional intelligence awareness is to bring some of the stuff that might be hidden in your subconscious back into play so you can work out what's really happening in that moment. And doing an emotional intelligence audit with me, having that one-to-one, is just a way of making sure that you either know what's going on for you, and then once you do know what's going on for you, whether you want to change it. And it involves basically just making a quick booking with me, have a look at my profile. On my featured section, you'll see the Calendly booking and book a one-to-one with me. Find out what emotions are derailing your success, stopping you from being a better leader, and also stopping you from having that good business performance so that you can go on and just become a better leader, a better person, have better relationships with your clients, have better relationships with people that you work with. There's also this thing to do with creativity as well. When I look at motivation and creativity, the two go together, and people forget that you can't really be very creative unless you're in a relaxed space and you're calm and you can think. And creativity, I want you to question sometimes where the motivation for that creativity is coming from. So I hope this is all making sense, guys. Yes, seems to be, which is good, which is lovely. Now, the thing I wanted to also point out, I'm just going to quickly have a look at my sheets and make sure I'm on course for this, guys. So I do things the old-fashioned way. I like to have my boards of information and I like to look at them. So I'm getting some feedback from you saying that sadness, anger and fear, they are shields that a lot of us hide behind, and they really, really are. But I want us to stop hiding behind them and recognize that because we are, as I said, doing things every day, working with people, trying to manage our emotions, and also to be in touch with other people's emotions, we need to work out how to get past those so they're not a hindrance to our business. And it will give us these, well, I would say, deeper connections. I've also got down here, it's going to give us this greater sense of fulfillment. Now, sometimes when I'm doing my work and I get to a point where I'm stuck, I always review and think, well, Joy, are you doing what you want to do in life? That's a very big question. It's a big question for a business owner because we start out doing one thing and we may end up having to do something else. And we're not stuck in one job or one position or one, let's say, product or service. I think that's can be a real turning point, a real pivot for a lot of business owners, which is why I want you to question sometimes when you have these big feelings, whether it be sadness or whether it be fear. And the other one was anger, which I haven't quite come around to talking about yet. But anger, if you have that too, you know, really, how are these impacting your relationships with people? How are these impacting your ability to promote your product or to promote your services? So, yes, guys. Yes, at least I'm getting there. And the body brain connection, getting some feedback on that too, and being more resilient. Absolutely, absolutely. But the reason why we want to improve our emotional intelligence is because it's something that we can basically build that up and grow that. Uh, like I said at the beginning, the three components that make me me or makes you you is that we have a personality, which includes our ego, which takes us through life. It's the way that we see ourselves, it's the way that we represent ourselves. The other thing that makes me me and makes you you is your IQ, your intelligence, your ability to use your prefrontal cortex to process things, to learn, to be critical analysis. And then the third part that makes me me and you is our emotional intelligence, our emotional quotient, which children have, as I said. Children do have it from the moment that they're born. They recognize the emotion in other people, and then they begin to recognize the emotions in themselves and then other people. So the emotional awareness grows, the empathy grows, but for some reason, when we get to adulthood, we just stop growing that part of us, which isn't useful. We become quite fixed. And it's okay if it's not having a problem for you with your relationships, whether it's business relationships or personal relationships. But in business, it can be a problem. Emotions can be a problem. Like I said, the undercurrent can take you down, or the current can be in your favor and you can be working really, really well. So you have to find coping mechanisms that work for you, or work out how can I change this by working with a coach or a therapist or someone that you know has the skills to at least spot the glitches and help you to iron them out. So that's what I do. I am an emotional intelligence coach and I do that. I've been doing that for a good almost 20 years. It's an interesting place to be because I do a lot of self-analysis. I'm always looking at who I am and what I am. It's become a natural part of what I do. And I would love that to be something that you do too. So the one-to-one audit is always there. Have a look at my featured section on my profile, book the one-to-one, and then we can have a talk. So yes, guys, the emotional intelligence, the benefits of it. I've got quite a nice little list here as well. So the deeper connections I mentioned, the greater fulfillment for you when you're doing your work, that's going to be part of it too. Your business resilience, the ability to bounce back when things go wrong is really, really important. And people forget that resilience isn't something that's just there. Resilience happens because you face adversity. And from the adversity, you learn your lesson and you grow. And people equate it to having a muscle. So if you're into keep fit, sometimes our muscle tears when we do exercise, but then it repairs and it repairs in a much stronger way. The same thing could be said in terms of resilience. I mentioned about creativity. It's going to really help us to be more creative. Now, I've been reading a really, really good book about flow, mental flow, but also about the way that human beings can get into a kind of, for want of a word, a trance type state when we're working. And we've probably all had that when we feel as though we're just drifting. Time is like irrelevant, and then we suddenly come back to realize, oh my goodness me, half an hour has gone thereabouts. We've had that feeling. So we can get into a trance state, but it's very, very interesting and helpful when you're trying to be creative. It makes work also much more enjoyable for you. And if you're working with other people, it also makes it enjoyable for them. Because as I mentioned, the sadness and the fear are part of two of the strongest emotions that I think human beings experience. The anger can be a positive thing, it can be a negative thing. Anger for me is again the top of the iceberg. Underneath the iceberg, we want to look at what other real feelings are happening, what's really happening. And anger can be a sign of frustration too. Um, for me, it does spill out. It looks like anger. You can ask my partner. It looks like irritability. You can ask my partner again. Um, but underneath it, it's frustration a lot of the time. So working out what feeling is contributing to what's happening to you right now is so important. And that means you're extending your emotional vocabulary as well, beyond just the basic words that we use, happiness, sadness, surprise, disgust, disappointment. We want to have slightly nuanced words, like words that help us to pinpoint exactly what it is so we can solve it. And then we can, again, get back to doing what we like best and building a business, having better relationships. And I do think it all comes down to good relationships, guys. At the end of the day, we're not an island. We work with other people, and the problem does happen. As I said, the problems happen once we meet other people. Because I'm not only trying to manage my own emotions, I'm also now having to interplay with your emotions and listen to your emotions, sense your emotions, and adjust what I'm doing. And if I'm doing it well, if I'm managing myself well, then I'm also able to help you to manage your emotions too. Because human beings have this amazing thing called mirror neurons. It's part of what makes us empathic. When we're around other people, we sense each other's emotions. We can almost imagine what someone might be feeling so that we can experience that feeling. That's the empathic part of what human beings do. You want to strengthen all of these skills. So, the emotional intelligence, you do want to improve your own self awareness. You want to also improve your ability to regulate your emotions, how you use that. You want to look at what motivates you. Very, very important thing. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why is this happening to me? You want to also question that. You want to look at empathy, whether you're able to be around people and put yourself in their shoes, be empathic and show them the energy and the love and the kindness that we all need. And last of all, just have good interpersonal relationships, social skills, be around people, make good connections with humans so you can have good clients, your clients come back to you. You can also build good networking uh, communities, people that can help you actually on your rise to the top. There's lots of reasons why I think emotional intelligence is a skill that you should tap into and make it your superpower. And there is so much research that shows that too. So I have spoken for quite a long time at length, guys. So yes, and I've got some good feedback talking about the flow state and talking about great speakers on TED Talks. I love TED Talks myself, TEDx Talks. Yeah, beautiful things that happen there. But we can learn so much. But you can also learn about yourself by, of course, you can pick up a book and you can read things and you can tap into a YouTube vid. You could, listen to an audio. But again, because we're human beings, the interpersonal relationships are where we do grow. And something quite, I suppose, magical happens when you're opposite someone and they're really listening to you, giving you their undivided attention. They're doing some of the analysis for you. But if they're skilled, they can, again, tell you a lot about what's happening for you, help you to, I suppose, unravel what's going on for you and help you to work out whether the feelings, the thoughts, and the behaviours that you're doing are useful or not, and what else you'd like to do. So that's something that I am very, very skilled at. I have been doing that for, as I said, at least 20 years. It's coming up to 20 years, I'm sure. And I've been doing that for myself for the longest amount of time, because when you do enter that therapeutic space, you are learning a lot about yourself. And that's a continuous journey. It never stops. And I would love to do that for you too. So I'm going to check in the chat and make sure that I'm keeping on top of things. So yes, I am, which is good, 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 good. Nice to see that. Well, it's quite a nice response in the chat there, guys, and I appreciate you giving all of those comments. They're beautiful comments too. And like I said, for me, it's always talking about emotions. We cannot get away from them. They make us who we are. They inform everything that we do. The emotion starts in our gut, as I always tell you, and gets translated in our brain into something else. And what we make things mean is the crux of everything that happens. And I would love for you to be able to turn your emotional state around when you're in a stuck space and make it mean something else, so you can get over that glitch and you can continue, because emotions make human beings human. And even though we've got AI that's coming in, I don't think, for the moment, I don't know how it would happen that a machine could become emotional. So for now, we are still better than the machines because we have emotions. And I think that's what makes us better business owners too, because we have a thing called gut instinct too. So that's another talk in itself. But gut instincts are there. I don't think machines have gut instincts. And machines are only as good as the human beings that program them. So, guys, I do hope that's been a good little dive into it. The last thing that I want to say before I do disappear is, do remember to connect. Connect with me by all means, and connect with people that are in the chat, because this is a community of people that we're all talking the same thing and we're all on the same page. And we all do want to increase our emotional intelligence. As I said, it's one of the things that has been proven that we can improve upon and it can grow. So make that your superpower. And I came across a company that basically has a different set of KPIs, or key performance indicators. You know, it's not just about profitability, it is about people, and keeping people and having good people around you that work with you, having a good team. What else is there? You know, if we're not having good relationships with human beings, what are we doing? We're going to be very sad, lonely people. So that word sad comes into it. We might even be angry people. So my word anger will come into it. And the word fear will creep into it at some point, because you cannot maintain a business unless you are good at being around people. So I think that's everything that I needed to say today, guys. Just checking to see if there are any comments here, um, backing up everything that I've said. So that's good. Thank you very much, guys. Yeah. And I appreciate you guys turning up today as well. I really do. Every week, it's always good to share some information with you. So do remember to join the emotional intelligence community as well. You can do that by looking at my profile picture, hitting the link underneath that, and that will take you to a page where you can do that. But the main thing is that if you are experiencing any of these problems and they're becoming a big issue for you, they're derailing your leadership, or they're having some impact on your business performance, you know, talk to me. Book that one-to-one. Let's have that emotional intelligence audit. Look at the features section on my page and click that link, and we can get together and have that audit. And I can see which emotions are creating problems for you, and also share with you a couple of ways in which you can start to improve that. So I think I'm done for now, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure being with you today. Quite a short one today, about 34 minutes, I think it's been, or less or more. But I will be back in another 2 weeks, and we will have another talk about this emotional intelligence place. So yes, I shall disappear, guys. Do have a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, and we'll speak very, very soon. And do remember, if you've got any questions, DM me by all means. Always open to hearing from you. Okay, guys, see you soon.